Disabwolf here with another episode of VSW. Thank you. What a great tide of turning for a pay-per-view, folks. That's right, folks. We are a few days away from AEW Allout in Chicago. The VSW unfortunately wasn't able to make it like we thought due to car issues and some outside stuff. We were unable to make it, unfortunately, and we missed a great show, but it was okay. We watched it at the Somerville AMC in Massachusetts. That made up for it. And what a tide of turning for surprises. Every match delivered. You're not going to have time to fit Tokyo Dome, Dave Meltzer 6-star rating showcases in every pay-per-view. That wasn't going to happen, but I'm going to recap this from the first match, from the buy-in, all the way to the main event and the post-match extravaganza that shocked the world. Alright, folks, for AEW, you have the pre-show called the buy-in. Originally was supposed to be, which took place later in the card, the Women's Casino Battle Royale, but due to visa issues with Pac, which he's been famously known for AEW since its beginning, they had to scrap the match and move it to tomorrow for Friday Night Rampage between Andrade El Idolo, managed by Chavo Guerrero, versus Pac, the Bastard. That is moved to Rampage. Instead, they had a mixed tag match with the Best Friends, Freshly Squeezed, whatever, OC, IWTV reigning defending champion Wheeler Yuta. You had Chuck Taylor, and you had Jurassic Express. Jungle Boy Luchasaurus and Marco Stunt take on the Hardy family compound of yours truly, version 1, Matt Hardy. He ain't broken lately. He should be. Got the Hybrid 2, Angelico and Jack Evans. And you got Private Party. But all the faces won. I didn't really get to see a lot of this match, but Jungle Boy made Angelico tap out in what was a wild array of affairs with high-flying moves that Private Party and Jurassic Express always bring to the table. And you got a big hug-it-out moment before the show started. Orange Cassidy was almost this close at dawn to becoming the AEW World Heavyweight Champion, and he wasn't. And you have Chris Statlander later in the night taking on Britt Baker. But let's get to the main card now, shall we? Okay, folks, the opening match, which I knew kind of was going to open, but the other match I thought was going to kick off the show, if this wasn't, was a second match anyways. And it is for the TNT Championship between God's greatest champion, the best man, Miro, versus these nuts, Eddie Kingston. It was a great opener that you could deliver with. A lot of people thought that Kingston would walk away, but you got that big New York show in Arthur Ashe US Open Stadium in a few weeks on Dynamite. So, unsurprisingly, in my opinion, Miro retained. He's been booked like a monster since he won it from Darby Allin on a random Dynamite before Double or Nothing. He's been booked strong. He injured the guy that invited him to his wedding, Kip Sabian, who's still off the shelf. He calls himself God's greatest creation. This crushed camel clutch was too much. Kingston but he kicked him with a low blow to really turn the match and the momentum, but the crowd was really on Eddie Kingston's side for sure. Especially the Dynamite before. He had a D's Nuts joke, and it's a best-selling pro wrestling tees merch that doesn't have to do with CM Punk or any of the surprises I'm going to mention later. But he botched when he missed onto Miro off the apron, which Miro had his signature camel crutch, but it was Miro that won the match to retain his title. And here's the TNT title. Tony Khan says it's not like the U.S. or Intercontinental titles, or a mild card title as people like to call it. But I think it's a good stepping stone for someone that can't get in the already crowded world title picture. Miro's perfect for that because you get to evaluate performance. He beat Fuego del Sol on the debut of Rampage to retain the title. He's defeated the likes of the Murder Hawk, Lance Archer. I think he's going to defend his title against Kip Sabian, or Kip Sabian will cost him the title. I think Eddie Kingston will win it from him at New York. I think Miro's going to defend it at the tennis stadium and lose his title. That's my opinion. And it'd be okay for him to drop it too, as long as he has a good storyline program. And let's move on, shall we? So you got a match between New Japan legend Satoshi Kojima versus the Wild Thing, the former Lunatic Fridge, Jon Moxley. This is the talk about what they like to call the Forbidden Door, where AEW partners with a bunch of promotions. It started when Kenny Omega invaded Impact. You got AAA in Mexico. Not really Ring of Honor yet, but you got New Japan, a partnership people thought they'd never ever see. And you got Kojima, who's a legend at 50 years old, but it was a really great back and forth match that the crowd was intense for. But it was people knew, it was not surprising that Jon Moxley was going, considering the night before in GCW he beat Matt Cardona, the former internet beloved champion, to gain the GCW world title, which the Versace Stoner is going to aim to get tickets for tomorrow for his bachelor batch against the Nick Cage, the pizza cutting legend. But he's a GCW champion. You knew he wasn't going to lose, folks. It was a hard-hitting match, but it was not one but two of his Padagram Shift signature DDTs, formerly known as the Dirty Deeds, in his other promotion. The crowd was behind both of them, but they all love Moxley so much, and he retained. But here's the post-match everyone is talking about, folks, which ended up having the main event of Dynamite last night. You got another legend confronted by Minoru Sakuzui, and the crowd chanted "Holy shit!" and they confronted in the ring and exchanged punches, and Suzuki put him in the sleeper hold, which led to their match on the following Wednesday, which has a bit of controversy because, as you know, when Jericho faced Nick Gage and the commercial had Domino's as an uncoincidental with a pizza cutter. It also happened when last week when Orange Cassidy beat Matt Hardy and it was on a commercial break. This happened when he has a beloved song that's so popular with New Japan that it got cut, and Tony Khan's feeling the heat for that. But I think it was the right call having Moxley win. Even though he may not be in the AEW world title picture lately, I don't think he cares at this point. He was already a champion, beating Jericho before the world shut down. I think he's going to continue to look strong, and maybe you'll see potential feuds with him to evaluate other talent, because AEW has a crowded roster. I'm ready to move on. Are you, folks? Okay, so the next match is the most anticipated match that got the cut from the first pandemic pay-per-view Dawn from last year due to an injury. You got the hottest thing in women's wrestling in AEW. You got Dr. DMD, Dr. Dr. Britt Baker versus the best friend everyone, Galaxy's greatest alien, Chris Statlander, who's been undefeated since she came back from an injury this past summer, from her leg injury. But this is a match everyone's been waiting for. It was a very good match, in my opinion. It wasn't like a 4 or 5 star match as some of the other matches we're going to get into later, or the opener, but it really delivered, and it kept the story going for the future, especially when the Battle Royal takes place later, as I'll explain. The crowd really loved this match, as Chris is a beloved babyface. They finally got used to her. The people like in New England or New York that know her through the indie scene, how beloved she was. It took her a little bit of time to get Chris Statlander used to American television, as the indie scene's very different. We saw her in Beyond, which started the VSW when she faced TJ Crawford. And she's a beloved babyface, and you've got Britt Baker, who turned face for a Rampage debut in Pittsburgh, home of the Terrible Towel. She turned heel. She aligned herself with English-Japanese superstar Jamie Hayter alongside Rebel, not Reba, as her manager. She's been accompanying Britt Baker for over a year now. And you got this hard-hitting match exchanging scissor kicks. You got moonsaults in this match by both these terrific ladies. You got Britt Baker adopting a move formerly known as the Architect. You got the curb stomp that she delivered to crowd love. And Chris Statlander went for the area 451, and you had Orange Cassidy alongside her corner too, which she got attacked by Jamie Hayter. And when Chris went in the ring, Britt Baker had her signature lockjaw, which destroyed Sheeta's teeth, has destroyed so many females' teeth that you see blood coming out. It happened to Thunder Rosa in this famous Lights Out match on the St. Patty's Day Dynamite. And you had her retain, which I'm not surprised, because they really want to evaluate the women's division more, which the women's division is known for not being the strengths of AEW, mainly their tag team and their world dominance. But you got the women's division way better, as I'll get onto it later for the Casino Battle Royal, way better than it's been its whole life. 2 years ago, it was slow, not a lot of talent. Now there's so many storylines. It's developing, and Chris Statlander will have her chance again. I think it's a right call having Britt Baker have a reign, as she's one of the first females that was signed to AEW, alongside with transgender advocate, great native beast Nyla Rose too. As I agree with her having a long reign, because you want someone who defeats or gets a huge rub. And Chris Statlander winning wouldn't have gotten that much attention with all the returns hyped for All Out, as well as CM Punk's debut on Rampage as the United Center. It would have easily been overshadowed. Chris, the best friend alien, will get her chance again. But I'm ready to move on. Are you folks? Shall we? Okay. You got one of my favorite matches. And if you listen to the Versace Stoner, he loves tag team wrestling. And you got two teams which has the best chemistry in AEW. The first two big AEW tag team matches before they had their TV deal on TNT. You have the reigning, defending Elite Tag Team Champions, Nick and Matt Jackson, Super Kick Party, the Young Bucks, against Mielo, part of Death Triangle. When it's just two without Pac, they are known as the Lucha Brothers, Rey Fenix and Penta El Miedo. These guys are phenomenal, along with their great manager too. I'll admit I kind of forget his name, but it's okay. I botched this, but they fought at the beginning of Double or Nothing, where the Young Bucks went over in the inaugural AEW event All Out 2 years ago, the last Chicago All Out. You have them in a ladder match for the AAA Tag Team Championships, which is won by Lucha Bros. We had Santana and Ortiz debut to help the Lucha Bros win. And you got this rubber match, both at one each. You knew they were going to deliver, even though people weren't looking forward to it coming in as much as the other matches, given the stakes. But this delivered. This was my favorite match of the night. This gets 5 to 6 stars in my opinion. In a steel fucking cage match. This was everything you dreamed of in AEW. It's not like WWE where the cage is so tiny. The cage looks like a hybrid of a small steel cage and a War Games or even a Hell in a Cell type structure. As the last time they had a steel cage, it was one of the flagship AEW Dynamites where Cody defeated Wardlow when he was in his MJF huge storyline. That was the last time you saw a steel cage. But anyways, this was fucking spectacular, folks. You were on your feet. There were super kicks getting delivered. There were the Lucha Bros. Rey Fenix losing part of his mask in this match. In the beginning of this match, the Young Bucks got the upper hand, folks. It really was. You got the first 10 to 15 minutes getting a lot of athletic, a lot of backflips, which both are known for. Everyone was on their feet in the Somerville Assembly Movie Theater in Chicago. It was amazing. It was my favorite mask. You got them ripping off Penta's mask. You got also a Nike shoe in remembrance of the great Michael Jordan, the first dance leader of the NBA, had a Nike shoe with not 1, not 2, not even 10, not even 100 thumbtacks that gives the hardcore legend, have a nice day, Mick Foley a run for his money. Oh my God, and they had a great match before that shoe was revealed, but it took it to a whole other level, which made the Bucks get huge heat. As I love tag team, the Bucks have been my favorite tag team. They are a great tag team. They're the reason why, along with Kenny Omega, is why there is the indie scene has so much relevance. Why wrestling does have a purpose now compared to sports entertainment. This was amazing. Both of them used the cage to their advantage, but the thumb jack and the Jordan Nike shoe was a game changer. Everyone thought the Bucks were easily going to retain. This is why I love AEW. You don't know what's going to happen even when the matches are predictable, which sometimes you have to bump into predictability in wrestling when you have a weekly show. You never knew who was going to win. Everyone thought the Bucks were going to win, but Brandon Cutler, the face brace stooge, had the duffel bag, if you watch Being the Elite, which gave the weapon to Matt Jackson. And then you got Penta's face stick to it. And then you got Rey Fenix breaking up the pin. And everyone thought it was over. And you got Penta recovering from the thumb. They hit a Canadian Destroyer from the top rope. And then they kicked out the Young Bucks. And all 4 of these guys hit super kicks on each other. It was definitely a super kick party. Not just 1, 2, 3, 4. It was like playing a gym game in summer camp around the hula hoop when you pass the ball. They exchanged super kicks like it was the Wonder Ball. Oh my. Anyways, it was a phenomenal match. But you got Penta that went on the top cage and dived into Rey Fenix and Nick Jackson with their signature pile driver for not 1, not 2, 3 win. You have new AEW Tag Team Champions. I love this call. They are overdue for tag titles, and I'm purposely fine if the Lucha Bros have the tag team titles for a short reign because I'm dying for. You got Jungle Boy, Luchasaurus, Jurassic Express, Private Party, Sleeper. But I'm fine. I want Santana and Ortiz of the Inner Circle, formerly known as LAX Pride and Powerful, to have the opportunity to face the Lucha Bros at Arthur Ashe Stadium in a few weeks as they're from New York in that area. And I'm okay with the Lucha Bros being transitional champions. AEW doesn't have a lot of transitional champions, but I think they deserve this moment. They worked so hard around the world in Mexico with AAA, Japan. These guys are well-deserved, and it was one of the greatest matches I've ever seen. Every AEW tag team main event caliber match always delivers, folks. They have the best tag team division in the world. As this was hard with disbelief. And the Elite are not done for the night, as you'll see the Young Bucks later. But I'm ready to move on. Are you? One of the 6-star matches, my favorite matches, the tag team match. But it's time to move on, folks. You got originally supposed to be part of the buy-in. You got the Women's Casino Royale Battle Royal, with the winner getting a shot at the AEW Women's World Championship. It is different than a pre-show Battle Royal like WWE does, or it's kind of hybrid between a Royal Rumble and Battle, as they do the card trick. You got the Joker, the last person, usually a surprise entry, coming out at the end. You got Hearts, Spades, and everyone else coming in. There are 5 women that come in. The names are Nyla Rose, TJ, Ty Conti, and the returning Anna Jay, both of Dark Order. You also got the native beast, Nyla Rose, who my original pick to win if it wasn't for the surprise entrance, which I'll mention in the Joker. You also got Jamie Hayter, Rebel. You also got a ton of Thunder Rosa, beloved NWA standout that people love. She was one of the last 4 in the match. You also got a lot of talented women in there. You got Rio coming back. Hikaru Shido carried them throughout the pandemic with her cosplay and his beloved. You got Emi Suma coming back. You also got a lot of talented women in there, but I don't want to take too much time. But the biggest surprise, she's more relevant in this one match than 3 years, which should have been dominant, but she became a joke, is Ruby Soho, formerly known as Ruby Riott of the Riot Squad in WWE. As soon as a Joker hit, the crowd went crazy, as there was Rosa and Soho ended up fighting after they eliminated Nyla Rose, which Nyla Rose did dominate most of this match. I'd like to see her with Vicky Guerrero get a bigger push. I'd like to see the women's division get bigger pushes without having to do with the women's main event. Maybe do a women's mile card. Maybe do accolades for a woman that isn't the women's title, so you can bring up the division. You got the bad girl, Penelope Ford. You got Allie at the Butcher and the Blade and the Hardy compound. You got a lot of talented women that don't get enough storylines. But I'm really happy it came down to Rosa Soho. But it was a Death Valley driver that was countered by Ruby Soho. That was her signature move. A Thunder Rosa's a Death Valley driver, not the Undertaker Death Valley of the Dead Man. But you get my point, folks. And then a super bicycle kick was hit to Rosa. And then Ruby Soho was the winner. I didn't want to get too much details in this because I want to talk about the other matches. And I thought that was very great. The crowd was so happy with a surprise entrance of Ruby Soho win. And it looks like she is going straight for Britt Baker, whether it's the Dynamite show in a few weeks in New York. Maybe she'll challenge Baker at Full Gear, which got moved the week after due to a big UFC and boxing card on the 6th. And are you ready to move on, folks? I sure am. You got the ending story of this fantastic long-term storytelling at its finest between the biggest heel in professional wrestling, the most polite, marketable young man who loves his fan. I'm just joking. You better know the wolf speaks sarcasm. It is Maxwell Jacob Friedman versus the leader of the Inner Circle, the former Y2J, the Rock and Roller Violetola, the leader of Fozzy, Chris Jericho. Break the walls down, folks, especially with MJF's entrance. If Chris Jericho were to lose this match, his AEW career would be over. These have been the best rivalry in all of Dynamite, as it all started when Maxwell beat Chris Jericho to get in the Inner Circle. And then after Sammy Guevara left and came back, Maxwell started his own feud with the FTR and Sean Spears and Tully Blanchard and his bodyguard Wardlow as part of the Pinnacle. And you got Jericho in his Inner Circle alongside Jake Hager, the Spanish God Sammy Guevara, which weren't at ringside, and Pride and Powerful Santana and Ortiz. If Chris Jericho had lost this match, he'd be forced to retire. I was nervous, folks. I knew he wasn't done with AEW. But you got a countdown similar to his old WWE days of 10, 9, 8. It's kind of what people thought we'd have someone returning later coming into. But you have MJF. It said Jericho's final match, and he came out imitating Jericho's old gimmick. And this was a pretty good match. It was shorter, but it was meant to get the crowd all happy and fired up, because it would have made the crowd really sad if he had lost this match. You got Chris Jericho having a career-threatening match, and you got the crowd loves Judas. We all know the lyrics at this point. MJF is one of the best heels in the business, especially the next day he insulted Brian Pillman's family on the following Dynamite, including his Aunt Linda. That is horrible. Making fun of his mom and all the drug stories on the dark side of the ring. You can catch that on Vice TV's YouTube. They've been through a tough one. But anyways, I'll get back to the topic, as Versace would want me to stick to the topic. It was a great match, back and forth. You had MJF having his old school Ric Flair heel style, as MJF hurt his back most of the match. Maybe he was faking, maybe not. But then Wardlow came out to try and cost Jericho the match. And then you got Big Hoss Jake Hager coming in, and these two have quite the chemistry and quite the rivalry since the pandemic started. And it was MJF was trying to get the ring and hit Jericho with Floyd, which he did. You got Jericho. He hit Jericho with his own move, the Code Breaker. And then Jericho recovered when he got to the top ropes, which was originally MJF winning by Aubrey Edwards, but another referee had to come in and tell her that the match was still on. Maxwell was shocking. MJF tried to get 10 punches from Jericho, but then again, Jericho countered into the spine buster. Wardlow and Jake Hager were fighting on the ringside. You hit MJF, counter with not only the code breaker but the Judas effect, but if you use someone else's finishing moves, it never works well. And you got Jericho hitting with the signature walls of Jericho on MJF to make him tap out, and the crowd loved it as Jericho's career was saved. And this was a great match. It was hard to follow a great steel cage match early. I give this a 4-star match, 4.25. It was really great. The crowd was so happy. And next up, you are ready to move on. It's about the Second City Savior, Chicago's own, the voice of the voiceless, the cult of personality himself, CM Punk. CM Punk. Usually managed by the legend Icon Sting. You got the high flyer, AEW's most famous high-flying young talent, former TNT champion, Darby Allin, as they're both very similar. Both guys are straight edge, don't drink alcohol. Both love skateboarding. Punk really said it was a great first match for Punk in his return. He said if he was younger, Darby Allin would have been one of his favorite wrestlers, but Punk obviously grew up in the Hogan era to Attitude era. He started wrestling in the indie scene with Ring of Honor. And you got Darby Allin said his favorite wrestler when he was a teenager was CM Punk, and it makes sense. CM Punk is people my age who loved the Attitude Era, the ruthless aggression. They hated the decline of sports entertainment, known for his pipe bomb. And a lot of kids that are young adults in college now looked up to CM Punk. And Darby Allin, I assume, was one of them. This was a great match. Punk did have a little bit of ring rust in him when he was using Darby Allin in the top ropes, but Darby Allin was kind of like a dog or a mouse, sliding everywhere. He had a lot of athleticism and speed. he did try to hit his signature coughing drop on CM Punk, but in reality, it did not work as Punk hit Darby Allin with a GTS once, which would have won the match early, but Darby Allin was able to slid outside the ring. And then Allin did reverse into a Hurricanrana and then hit Punk with the coffin drop, but he went successfully countered into his signature go-to-sleep GTS for the 1-2-3 count, and CM Punk starts his all-elite career at 1-0. And both guys, neither one turned on each other. It was a perfect face for his face feud to introduce Punk to wrestling once again. The crowd missed him so much. I certainly have. As you got him look like he's going after Team Taz next, or Team Taz, Starks, or Hobbs are going after him if you watch Dynamite per se. And it was a good night for Darby Allin. As Sting came in, it looked like there was tension between Sting and CM Punk, but they both helped Darby Allin. It was similar to when X-Pac as 1-2-3 Kid faced Scott Hall, Razor Ramon, when they both hugged each other and moved on to the rest of wrestling. Everyone was so happy. Punk did look rusty, which instead of a 5-star, I'd give it a 4-star. But it's expected. If you've been out of the ring for 7 years, it's like if you're off of ice skates for 7 years. If you haven't played video games in 7 years, you'd lose a bit of rust. And Punk, yeah, Darby Allin looked like he was carrying the match for Punk, but it was amazing. All three men, Sting, Darby, and Punk. Maybe there's an alliance in the future. Maybe you'll see them in trios action. I cannot wait for Punk. I like that he's not rushed into the Kenny Omega main event scene. Maybe you got Punk and a returning former Yes Man teaming up to face the Young Bucks someday. But I like that he's going through Team Taz first to get him used to the main event scene, get his ring rust off. As this savior, I look forward for his promos for years to come. There's MJF. He wanted to face Jungle Boy, Brian Pillman. It's all kinds of guys for Punk to face. And are you ready to move on, folks? I sure am. So you got a match in between the main event, which was people wanted Punk's match to main event, but once you get to the end, you know why the world title match main event. But this was a popcorn match because Tony Khan put this match all the way high. Not because it was a main event caliber match. You also had a guy returning to the ring, a former legend, formerly known as the Big Show, Paul White, facing the leader of the Nightmare Factory trainer who turned on the Rhodes family, QT Marshall. You also had the Gun Club turning heel, and you got Mr. An Ass Man hitting the former BS Man with a steel chair. This wasn't a great match, but it wasn't meant to be. He put it up there so in case the matches went long, they could cut this match. And it was fine. It was meant to get Paul White a win. Used to AEW television, it wasn't the greatest feud in the world, but it wasn't meant to be. That was the only negative spot of the whole card. Paul White did look really rusty, but he hit his signature weapon of mass destruction on all those Aaron Solo and all those Nightmare Factory students, and he hit QT with his signature chokeslam that was used alongside guys like Undertaker, Kane, Rock. And he's been face for such a long time, the Big Show should usually flip-flop from heel to face. Maybe he turns heel the next time he's not calling Elevation. Because Big Show's known to flip-flop. And, oh, Paul Wright, my bad, no more BS. Anyways, this wasn't worth getting much into time. And it's now the main event of the evening for the AEW World Championship. You got Christian Cage, the Impact World Champion, facing leader of the Elite, Don Callis' right-hand man, Young Buck's best friend, the AEW World Champion. Mwah, goodbye, good night all, Kenny Omega! This was a really great match. Might have not had the storyline because people wanted Hangman Page, unofficial leader of the Dark Order, to face him, but he's taking time off to face his kid. I originally thought, since they had this on the debut episode of Rampage where Christian Cage beat Kenny Omega for the Impact title, I thought they were going to make it a triple threat one of the returns that will be mentioned later. CM Punk or even Hangman, if he had his kid, looked like he hasn't had his baby yet. I can't wait till a potential Kenny versus Hangman feud. But it was a great match. It was Kenny Omega having a V-trigger knee on Christian Cage. And Christian was trying to use his signature old flying top rope moves when he was known. He wants to get Edge's name out of his shadow when he's mainly known as a singles guy when he went to TNA. Really good with the Christian Cage gimmick. And Omega had a table, but you had a power bomb on the Christian on the table outside the ring. But Omega hit a bunch of dragon suplexes on Christian. Christian was great at reversal, but it was Kenny Omega carrying the match. It wasn't the feud everyone wanted for the world title, but the post-match shenanigans is why this match was a decent main event. And you had the one-winged angel, but you had Christian use his best friend tribute as a spear to set him through another table. There were 2 tables hit. And right when he was going to go for his signature kill switch, the Club, Gallows and Anderson come running in. Impact World Champions. They're not really on AEW, but they hang out with the Elite, Don Callis and the Young Bucks all the time. But then you had Kenny Omega had a one-winged angel for a win. It was a great main event. Yeah, it wasn't the memorable main event everyone wanted, but wasn't meant to be. As you see, Kenny Omega talked about how the crowd was known for him, how he was the best wrestler in the world, and he winded up winning #1 at the 500 WWE, AEW, and indie stars across the world. PWI, Pro Wrestling Illustrated 500. Congratulations to the cleaner. As he is right, I love the Elite guys, they're known. But the lights came out right when they were going to attack Christian. You had Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus of Jurassic Express come in. The lights come out, and it was a ghost. Their friend was back. Adam Cole, baby! Looked like he was about to confront his friend, but he super kicked Jungle Boy, and he was having his align with the Elite, as it is story time with Adam Cole. Adam Cole's going to make his debut match next week. Former NXT and Undisputed Era leader against Frankie Kazarian, former SCU inaugural tag team champ. You also have the Flight of the Valkyries game. The crowd was chanted, yes, yes, yes. It was the return, formerly known as Daniel Bryan, Bryan Danielson, the American Dragon. That was his persona before his WWE gimmick. As the crowd went nuts with the potential Omega Bryan Danielson match. That's a dream match, folks. As you had him spear one of the Brandon Cutler, you had him save Jurassic Express and Christian. As the tides have shifted, the Elite have some competition now to close the show. It was one of the greatest wrestling pay-per-views I've seen. It is up there with the inaugural Double or Nothing 2019 as the best AEW pay. Supposedly, the buy rate numbers haven't released. It may have doubled ECW's biggest buy rate of 99,000. Hopefully it gets over 200 grand as AEW's buy rate with the hype of CM Punk. You knew Daniel Bryan was coming and Adam Cole. Numbers should be exploded. If you missed the Attitude Era or the Ruthless Aggression Era and you missed Stone Cold the Rock, I don't want to hear it anymore. Wrestling is back. Professional wrestling is back. I am so excited for what the future of AEW has in store, as I'm really happy CM Punk and Bryan Danielson are back. I want to see a Young Bucks versus CM Punk and Bryan Danielson match so badly. You're also going to get a dream match coming soon, maybe Hangman Payne. But Tony Khan and company, the future is bright for this company, as we will be at AEW at the end of October. Hopefully the Boston show keeps getting moved thousands of times, as I hope to see CM Punk and Bryan Danielson make an appearance. This was a great card, even if the popcorn match wasn't as good with the Paul Wright match. It didn't have to be, as long as it was carrying The crowd was home happy. You didn't have one, not two, but 3 surprises in one night. Holy shit, folks. That was awesome. I didn't expect Adam Cole to come back this quickly, but he waited till his contract expired, similar to how Jon Moxley did before Double or Nothing. As the future is bright for the Elite, I love this pay-per-view. I am sad we didn't make it because we had car issues. And we'll get back soon. Hopefully we'll be at Full Gear, even Revolution next year. This is the VSW Disabwolf signing out.